Hi, this is Jim Cranston from 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com, the podcast and website about reimagining your life. Thanks for joining me today to talk about, well, ageism and attitude. So let's get started. If you like what you hear today, please leave a like, subscribe, tell your friends, send me a message. Thanks for joining me tonight to talk about self-confidence and kind of observing yourself and ageism. I actually had a completely different topic for tonight related to empathy and goal setting. But just before I started, to finalize this, that I saw a comment in a Facebook group for web design package. And it was someone who had said, I just had to vent because even though their website was beautiful and very well done, eye roll, anyone over 55 keeps having trouble getting signed up and logged in no matter how much I explain it to them. And, what can I possibly do? I had to step away for a few seconds and have a little attitude adjustment. But my response is less important than the underlying message that was sent. What I wanted to write was more along the lines of, so everyone who's 54 and younger has absolutely no issue signing in, and everyone who's 55 and older is having trouble. So no 56-year-old successfully navigated through without help? Clearly not. But you've decided to make a sweeping generalization based solely upon age that not only alienates enough of your followers that you find it frustrating, but also ignores possible problems that many of your younger users may be having as well, and eventually finding some way to solve, or they too might just be dropping out. And what you assume is for another reason, since they're young, and it must all have to do because old people can't do anything. In short, you're manipulating kind of the data in the conclusion to match your bias. Tisk tisk, we know that doesn't work well. But it goes deeper still. I did mention that if they are frustrated, it's very possible that it's obvious to the people who are looking for help that, the person helping them is very frustrated with them. And that just further exacerbates and makes everything worse, exacerbates the problem, and the situation's bad. And it's not a good way to do things. Maybe a little patience and empathy and understanding might go a long way to making the whole thing go a little easier. But that last part is part of what I wanted to talk about tonight, because I certainly have gotten more than my share of, eye rolls and sighs because of things that, quite frankly, are usually related to vision issues. I can't really wear progressive lenses, the bifocal replacement, and that makes many seemingly simple tasks, take a little bit longer, even in things like the checkout line at the store, which of course annoys everybody. And because the immediate assumption is that it must be because I'm confused by that newfangled touchscreen, or I can't figure out how to use a stylus. When in reality, it often comes down to the checkout screen is either horribly designed or just beat to trash and you can't read it, or the paper slip is too faint to see, or what they don't realize is that, you know, these things aren't new and foreign to me. I actually designed them as part of my job. And I probably know a whole lot more about them than they do, including the workings and everything else. And I'm used to working with complex things. But they immediately assume it's because I'm daft or even worse, because I must be old. And I expect you get that a lot too. And I know it gets really wearing, right? But the damage isn't really someone else's bad attitude and their own prejudices, of course. It's that it can get your mind to start thinking that what they imply is true. And we've talked about this. And this is where your attitude and resilience come into play. As like I said, we've talked about this before, but it bears repeating because it gets ever more prevalent in society. And it's not just in discussion groups on Facebook and things like that. I was actually shocked. In the Wall Street Journal editorial section on Wednesday, February 19th, just a few days ago, in an editorial about Jamie Dimon from, I just forgot the bank he runs, but writer Matthew Hennessy felt it necessary to use the phrase, and I quote, recording a Zoom call or a Google meeting is a piece of cake. Even a baby boomer can do it, end quote. Really, Mr. Hennessy? Has the level of writing at the Journal fallen to such a level that you feel it's humorous to offend and dismiss a group of people, your constituents, who are probably a big percentage of your readers? The letter to the editor's in the works. But it's exactly this sort of legitimacy that makes comments such as this so damaging. It was especially interesting since the journal had just quoted Dr. Becca Levy, who we've spoken about before, in the February 5th print edition, where she speaks about the damage such ageist comments do and the cost to society of 63 billion with a B dollars each year. Perhaps Mr. Hennessy should read some of the other sections of the paper. So let's recap some of the things that you can do when you see or experience this sort of discrimination, prejudice, and bias, because yes, that's what it is. First off, don't immediately assume it must be me. Many people are used to blaming other people or other things for their own poor performance. In the case of the web page, I suggested that the author check it for readability and color selection, because can be a really big problem for a lot of readers. But a lot of people can't even be bothered to look, even do superficial review of their own work. So they immediately place the blame somewhere else. And age is always a good place to use, right? Because it's the only socially acceptable bias in most countries. So don't assume it's you, even though many of us have been trained to immediately doubt ourselves because of our age, whenever we have problems with almost anything. I just recently rented two cars. Both of them had very nicely performing radios, have HD radio, yay for HD, free radio that supports local communities. Too bad it's going away. Actually, I have a feeling that it was actually pushed out of existence by the paid radio services, but that's another whole story. But so they had, really good performance radios, and it really was very good. And in both cases, the user interface was so bad that for one of the cars, I didn't even bother with the radio for a 5-day trip I took in it. And I love to listen to local Spanish and alternate radio stations. And you had this great radio, nice sound system, and the interface was so bad, it was unusable. But I suspect that many of my listeners, if they've been in the same situation, would have blamed themselves, saying, I don't understand technology or something similar. When in reality, you're fine. The manufacturer just did a totally amateur job with the software. The next thing to be aware of is when you see it, when you see ageism, that is, you should immediately answer it in your head. I was flabbergasted with what Mr. Hennessy, I saw that he had written in the Wall Street Journal. The journal has strong health and wellness coverage and many stories supporting older individuals and their lifestyles. So I was really confused, actually. I actually went back and reread the paragraph to make sure I hadn't misinterpreted the context. But no, it was simply a tasteless, ignorant, ageist remark that amazingly made it past the page editor as well. But it didn't really affect me negatively because I immediately recognized it for what it was. If I had internalized it instead, then it would have been another small negative influence of self-doubt, just chipping away my own self-confidence. Finally, don't be afraid to speak out. I've spoken to salespeople about their language. I've called out peers. Don't be ashamed to shine the light on blatant ageism. If you aren't harmed by it, others probably are. So it's better to just stop it whenever possible. So a quick reminder to not get, sucked into society's trap of pigeonholing you because of your age. Just be aware of it. Stay aware of it. When you see it, call it out to yourself so you can just address it and make it go away. And don't be afraid to say something to someone else. You are exactly who you should be with your own strengths and your unique talents. No one is perfect, so don't be overly influenced by those who try and pass judgment on you, especially if it's only based on their own prejudice and beliefs. There's plenty of evidence showing that most of the common knowledge around aging is totally false. So be confident in yourself, be pleased with all the talents you have and gained over the years, and be willing to stick up for yourself. So that's it for the evening. Your homework tonight is to stay on the lookout for ageist remarks and ageism in action. And instead of ignoring it because your brain doesn't really ignore it, think about it and realize why it's wrong and generally baseless. If you're up for it, feel free to call it out right then and there, perhaps with a smile. But prejudices hate being made visible because then it sounds as foolish as it is. Thank you very much. Remember, as always, please remember all the areas where they have political and social unrest throughout the world, wars going on. Please check out our page, ukr7.com. Links to support the people of Ukraine. Very, very, very bad situation. We won't go into that. We try to avoid politics when possible. But just I would encourage anybody that has any doubts about some of the things that are being said, go find some real sources. Stop listening to the propaganda because there's a lot of figures being bandied around that are off by an order of magnitude, a factor of 10. So no, we did not give them $500 billion, nothing close to it, and there's being pressure put on them that really is not appropriate. But that's ukr7.com. Lots of ways to support them directly. If you're not into that, we also have World Central Kitchen. They work in areas where there's disasters of any sort. They're one of the first people in usually, getting food and services to the people. Great, great, great organization. But even if you don't want to support one of those two really big organizations or worldwide problems, there's a lot of stuff going on locally, and there's a lot of groups locally who do work, who can always use support. And it's not just money. It could be volunteering, it could be helping out. And if you're not in a position where you can do any of those things, of course, always, always just smile to somebody, make their day a little better. It's real simple to do. It can have a huge effect because sometimes people just get, maybe they just heard an ageist remark, to put it in the context of what we're talking about. They're thinking, kind of down on themselves, and you walk by and go, hey, how's it going? Just a smile, hi, good morning. And it's kind of like, wow, they just talked to me. Maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm not an idiot. So you have a huge power to just go out, change the world around you for the better. And, when you look outside yourself, we talk about this a lot. When you look outside yourself, it really changes your view on the world and naturally makes you more, gives you more empathy towards other people and more understanding of how they see the world as well. So again, if you can check it out, ukr7.com, wck.org. Lots of local organizations, no matter where you live, or just smile, make somebody's day a little bit better. As always, thank you for stopping by. If you found something interesting or useful, please pass it along, and please subscribe and hit that like button. And if not, please drop me a comment as to what you'd like to hear. Have a great week. Remember to live the life that you dreamed of, because that's the path to true contentment. Love and encouragement to everyone. See you next week on 7 Every Minute and 7everyminute.com. Thank you.